excited to have you all join us here today for our latest Business Essential webinar, where we're talking about becoming promotion ready, which is, again, of that topic of what leaders look for beyond strong performance. So again, Forte, we offer a bunch of different webinar series to our audience. So this is for our Business Essentials, which is really meant to amplify different professionals, different educators within our community, and have them speak about topics that really resonate with our audience that they're dealing with. And so again, today's topic, becoming promotion ready. I think a lot of people are interested in it, especially if you're at that point in your career where you're looking for your next step. And so we are very excited to have our guest speaker, Brittanni Hendricks, today with us here. She is a ICF certified leadership alignment coach, organizational development practitioner, and the founder of BB Coaching LLC. And she has over 15 years of experience inside enterprise organizations in talent acquisition, leadership development, and human resources. And she's really built a front row view of how advancement decisions can actually get made and who gets left out of them. So we are so delighted to have her, especially as an MBA alum. So we're really excited to have her represent the community that way and really lead today's business essentials. So with that, I'm actually going to have her take it away and really begin this webinar and go through this content together with us today.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much, Alexia, and welcome all of you. Thank you so much for being here. Before we jump in, I really just want to start with why I talk about this and why becoming promotion ready is so important. And I will ask for those of you who can, if you are in the chat, I would like for you to drop a number 1 if you are here because you are ready to get promoted and you're ready to go to the next level. So there was a moment that I've thought about many times since it happened. And I was sitting in a calibration meeting as an HR business partner. I was in those meetings where the leaders were deciding who was ready to advance and who was not. And there was a name that came up. There was a woman that I knew, and she'd been with the company for 6 years, and she had great reviews, excellent results. And she was the type of professional, and I saw her as, that manager wants to have on their team. She's dependable, people like her. And when it came time, that manager said 5 words that I have never forgotten. I'm not sure she's ready. And nobody asked why. Nobody pushed back, and the conversation moved on. And I sat there thinking, this woman doesn't even know this conversation's happening. And she doesn't know that her chance for a promotion was just shot down before she even had an opportunity to understand what she really needed to be ready for. And the most painful part was knowing that she probably went home that night still believing that if she kept doing what she was doing and kept working hard, she'd get promoted in the next cycle. And that moment is why I do this. I've spent over 15 years inside enterprise organizations in the HR and talent development space. So I'm not only coaching from the outside, I'm on the inside, and I've been in the calibration meetings, in the talent review meetings, and the conversations where these names have come up and they either moved forward or they didn't. And so after years of watching that happen and watching these professionals get overlooked for whatever reason they weren't told about, I began to build my coaching practice where, in addition to my work in organizational effectiveness, I help mid-career professionals, especially women, to do exactly this and fill that gap between being excellent and being positioned for the next step. So I'm here today because I want to give you the insider perspective that most people spend years trying to understand on their own. And so for the next 30 minutes, I do want to change how you think about what promotion readiness really means and give you something concrete to do, just one thing before the end of this month. So if you are ready to jump in, Drop a 1 in the chat. I see a lot of 1s here. You're promotion ready. If you're ready to hear about it, drop a 1. We're going to get rocking and rolling. I am going to go ahead and share my screen, and I will welcome questions as we go through today. We will have some time available at the end for Q&A, but I do want this to be interactive, and I do want to make sure that I can get to the questions live where I can. So here's what we're going to cover today. So we're first going to look at why the criteria shifts at the mid-career level. And before I continue sharing, I do want to just ensure that you can see me on the screen. I realize I'm wearing a navy blue today, and I probably should have worn pink or some brighter color, but I'm not just a talking head. So first, we are going to take a look at why the criteria shifts at the mid-career level. What is going on at the mid-career level that is so different? And the high performance that we put in at the beginning, now the rules have changed. We didn't know about it. So I want to show you the 3 signals that leaders are actually looking for beyond your output, because this is what people don't talk about. And that's the piece that changes everything. Next, I'm going to introduce you to my promotion framework, and I call it the playful power method. Trust me, playfulness in the workplace has been scrutinized. It's been one of those like, well, we have to be serious and get the work done. It's actually not. And you can go so much further when you don't have to sacrifice your joy to get into the seat that you want. And you need to know the gaps, put a plan in place, and consistently implement it. And then we are going to talk about what you can do differently. What's the one move you can make before the end of this month that's really going to shift the way the right people see you? So again, I do want this to be interactive and engaging. Please drop questions in the chat. Throw some hands up in the chat if you resonate with what you're hearing. And we'll leave time at the end for specific questions. So stick with me and let's get into it. All right. This slide here, why strong performance is not enough. I want you to take a look at what's here, but as I'm talking, I want you to think about yourself, where you're at, and what you have been focusing on. If you say I'm promotion ready, what have you actually done to position? Some of you probably went out and updated your LinkedIn or updated your resume, or you're having one-on-ones with your manager and you're applying to internal roles, or you're just hear me out. The criteria shifts at mid-career, and if you're playing by these old rules, I want you to understand that reliability and results are just the baseline. So if you're somebody putting your head down, getting results, that's wonderful, but I want to ask a question. Are you prioritizing strategic thinking over just getting the work done? Over just focusing on the output? That is key. Advancing requires anticipating the needs and providing a broader perspective. What's that strategic level thinking of why the work matters at a higher level? If you're looking to move into a director role, a VP role, even a senior director role, communicating your ambition is so crucial. And I also want to say, if you have invisible ambition and you haven't declared what it is you're working towards and where you want to go, that's going to signal no ambition. People may assume you're good with where you're at, but you also want to be careful. There's a balance here, that your ambition is not weaponized. And I say that because I know a lot of women who've gotten very bold in what they do and what they're going after. And the person above making decisions could have felt they were threatening and didn't position them properly, and actually began weaponizing the ambition because they wanted the job. And I don't say that to scare you, it's just keeping it real. If your manager knows what direction you want to go in your career, it's also great to have a two-way dialogue about how they can help you with that, or what opportunities there are in other spaces if you're gunning for their role. So I will ask, does your manager know what next step you want to take in your career? If your manager knows what step you want to take, drop a 1 in the chat. Have you had this conversation? I want you to take a look at these 3 signals here that leaders are actually looking for. So a lot of you mentioned you've dropped a 1, you've said, yes, my manager knows. And there's a lot of you who have not. And that's okay, because it's important that you know what it is that they're looking for when you start to articulate what it is you want. Beyond the output, beyond getting the work done, that piece changes everything, absolutely everything. So there's the narrative gap. Number 1, can you effectively articulate your impact with 1 sentence, the leadership identity that you hold in 1 sentence to communicate your value? If somebody asks you 30 seconds elevator pitch, why should I have you on my team? Or what can you do for me? What narrative can you articulate in that 1 sentence? And the second piece is the visibility gap. So some of you mentioned you talk to your manager, but how do you ensure high-level leaders actually recognize your contributions through strategic actions, not as the do to check the box, get the work done list, strategically in meaningful information? So have you been able to share not just what you got done, but what was the impact? What were the results for the firm, for the organization? How did you help push the strategic priorities for this year in your work? And the third area is the advocacy gap. Are you actively building relationships and engaging in conversations with your manager, with skip level? That can be also taboo. Some people say you should not, but yes, you should. Allies. You need allies to champion your growth, because your manager is not the only stop there. You've got peers across, you've got clients around, you've got leaders above. They need to know, and you can't rely on your manager only to articulate your value and your worth. You own that. And guess what? Your manager is also someone who wants more for themselves too. So they're going to advocate for themselves over you. And that's just the reality of it. Why would they not? You have to own your career. And yeah, it's great to have a wonderful relationship with your manager. It's great for them to know, but you have to advocate for yourself, because who's going to do that better than you? So by addressing the gaps here, you can overcome those barriers and you can progress forward to make sure that your skills are not just recognized, but they're also valued. And that's the key. Are they valued, and are they valued by the people who need to know and the ones who make those decisions at the next level? So next, I want to introduce you to my promotion framework, the Playful Power Method. So drop a 1 in the chat if this is resonating for you so far. If you're still with me, drop a 1 in the chat. I am somebody who is gunning for the next promotion. I'm starting to pick up some understanding of the things I need to start doing to get there. I see lots of 1s coming in. Thank you. You guys are incredible. This was so game changing for me when I decided I'm ready for the next thing. And I don't want to hold myself back by making assumptions. So this framework is exactly how I was able to help not just myself, but many of my other clients move to that next level. You don't have to sacrifice your joy to get in the seat you want. You don't have to put in 1 million hours and stay weekends and evenings. And no, because what's the point of working so hard when you can't enjoy it? When you don't have time in the day, in the weekend, in the evenings to actually look back and say, man, I am loving my life right now. And not just working and working and wondering, when am I going to get a break? And this is how you do it. You got to understand what the gaps are first, put a plan in place to consistently implement it. And the first thing is getting clarity. Do you know what role you want? Now, some of you said you've spoken to your manager, they know you're ready for promotion. But those of you who have and who haven't, what exactly promotion do you want? What's the title? What specific things would you do? Visualize that in the exact position you want. What is it that you would do? And I'm curious to know, as you think about this, like, if you can and you're comfortable, put in the chat, what is the position that you're going for? Is it a senior manager? Is it a director? Is it a VP? What position is that? I'd love to know what we have here, what sort of roles you're looking for. I know many of you are, MBAs, you've got a business mind, you can be doing so much greater. Where is the next level for you? Drop that in the chat. What's that specific title that you would love to have next quarter, in the next 6 months? And next, have courage to acknowledge and address those gaps in the narrative, your visibility, your advocacy, even when you're uncomfortable. So if you're trying to move to senior leader level, director level, I see that AVP, what is getting in the way? How can you do that? What gaps that you've seen do you need to address? And then you clearly communicate and express your efforts. You make intentions behind, I'm going to start thinking like a VP. I'm going to start thinking like an AVP. I'm going to start speaking like a director. I'm going to start asking questions like the senior manager. I am going to start providing information in the way that a director would, not in the way that this individual contributor does. Because I'm no longer just wanting to be here to do the work. I am looking to lead this team. I am looking to lead at the next level. Express your efforts and intentions, and make sure that your work stands out through your voice, through your presence. Your manager should start to see an huge, great shift in how you show up, because you're sitting here right now and you're saying, I'm going to start acting like a director, speaking like a director, VP, AVP, senior manager. And the next time I'm in a meeting, I'm going to show up differently. I'm going to ask different questions. And this now, final piece is consistency. You hold it over time. You don't just start doing that next week and then shrink back because people start looking at you like, who does she think she is? No, you know who you are. We know who you are. And you're the next director. You're the next AVP. So building that trust and credibility through consistency, time over time. That's how you maintain visibility, even when it gets challenging, even when you start to shrink back and think, oh, I might not be ready yet. How do you think embracing these pillars will actually clarify your path to advance to the next level? And I see a question here, Cindy. What if the role that you're after is your manager or leader's role? What if it is? You don't necessarily have to tell them, I want your job, but they should know I'm looking to continue elevating in my career, because we also know from many of the clients I worked with that once you hit that level and you're ready and you're sending those vibes out into the universe, when LinkedIn starts to see the updates, and when you think maybe I'm tapped out here, you may very well move on to another organization. And it's not by having to put in a ton of effort. You've already started putting in the effort. And if your manager is not an advocate of that, it will be noticed. It creates a toxic environment on a team to work for someone who doesn't advocate for you. Other people notice that. But even if you're showing up, there could be a conflict of interest if it's not positioned properly. But when it is positioned the right way, you can move forward with determination without becoming a threat to someone who holds a position of power and influence over that. And we'll talk more about this as we get through, but that was an awesome question because it comes up a lot. But when you know you want to communicate more clearly, you want a specific role, show up as that. You're going to start improving how the team is viewed. And that's the piece that a lot of people downplay is how you show up is not just a reflection of you, it's the entire team that you're part of. And you're making that manager look even better because you're showing up, and you're probably holding a mirror to them to say, oh, I might need to step it up. And they may not be ready, but that's why you're here. You signed up for this webinar. They didn't. And they don't always have to know what it is that you are really working through and developing. They know what the goal is, but they don't know the specific steps in the plan. So that's what we're going to talk about. They don't know this part. You can hold this. This is a secret. All of you here, this is what we can do differently. We don't have to tell anybody. That one move that you're going to make before the end of this month, I do want to ask you to reflect just a moment before we get to this. How are you spending your time? So if you were to say right now, today is Wednesday, lunchtime, how are you feeling about how you've spent your time just this week from Monday until today? What burdens can you release? What are some things that you're doing that you are just getting so burnt out from, that are not moving the needle, that are so getting in the way and wasting time? If you're thinking about this and you've got some things coming to mind, you don't have to tell us, but drop a 1 in the chat. Drop a 1 in the chat if you are starting to think about all the things that you're wasting time that just are so in the way of your joy, your energy, the next level. Start seeking clarity through removing that noise. All those things that you're thinking about, write them on a list, get them out. And this then allows you to craft a single sentence that you can use to define the transformation that you want to bring into your career. And so what transformation can you create at the level that you're working towards? And I'd ask you to just take some time to write this down before the end of the month. Just start thinking about this. What transformation do you create at the level that you're working toward? Your manager probably sees that and isn't articulating it. And if you are not clearly articulating it, how can they? And if this is difficult, it's a great place to start. And so I would like to invite you, if this is resonating, I would like to invite you to a complimentary strategy call. What you heard today, it will only matter if you do something with it. Because insight feels good in the moment, and it gives you language, it gives you clarity, and maybe even a sense of relief. But those people who were in those meetings making decisions about the woman that I spoke of, they didn't tell her specifically why she wasn't ready yet. So she continued to work and try to move to the next level, and ended up missing out on that promotion because she wasn't clear about the actions that she needed to take. So if nothing changes after this, it just becomes a moment of something you knew better, but you are staying in the same place, and you're here because you don't want to. You're here because you're ready to do something different. And it's not just about understanding the problem, but it is about shifting how you show up. It's about having an actual strategy for your career. You are the CEO of your career, not your manager. So I will offer some of you the opportunity for a complimentary audit. And this is a conversation where we will do 3 things. We'll have clarity on where you are right now. We went through those 3 areas of the narrative, the visibility, the gaps of advocacy, and get clear on what's keeping you there. And identify what is the shift you can make for yourself to get to that director level, the senior manager level, the VP level. What shift do you need to make personally with intention and credibility? And also determine whether working together makes sense on both sides. And if you're ready for that level of honesty and movement in your career, I invite you to register using the link here. You can hop on my calendar, pick a time that works for you. There's no obligation. And regardless of what you decide, I want you to take this fire that's in your soul right now and what motivated you to be here and do something with that. Come up with a clear plan for yourself. Really sit with this. For those watching the recording and even those here live, watch the recording, go back and find out what you can do. What is that one simple thing you can do to help move yourself forward to the next level? And I'll leave you with this before we jump into the Q&A. This is one of my quotes that I love to share because it's something that I very much believe with my whole heart. And your name does belong in the room. Your name belongs in the space where the conversations are happening about who's next. And those succession conversations and readiness promotion conversations, they're not about who is the most capable person. They're about who is obviously ready for the next level. And your job is to make sure that your readiness is impossible to overlook. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you for having me here. And any questions, feel free. We'll go ahead and move into the Q&A.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you again so much, Brittany, for being here, for talking to our audience, talking about some strategies they can start utilizing as far as like being promotion ready and for that next step. So I do want to take a moment. We do have some questions in the Q&A I want to get to, but again, as a reminder, if you have any questions for Brittany, we are going to be here for a moment before we officially close the webinar. And primarily I'll be looking in the Q&A, but I'll also be making sure to check out that chat feature as well in case you're dropping your questions there. So the first question that came in that I think is a good one to talk about is about kind of figuring out how do you navigate the role of where you want to go next when it's clear that maybe your company did a reorg or maybe your company is newer. And so there's not really a clear set path yet developed. So it's kind of like you're making the roadmap as you're going.
Yeah.
So any kind of advice or tips that would really make this process of navigating it a little bit easier?
Yeah, so that is a great question. And when there are reorgs, there's a lot of uncertainty that comes with it. And the good news, usually in a reorg and restructure, is most leaders, when I speak to them about that, what's the next thing for your team, they have a bit of ambiguity. They have a bit of build your own path. So if you can get very clear on what skills you have, what future direction, what is the vision for that team? What was the reorg done for? What was the actual strategy behind that? If you can understand why the reorg took place and think visionary, what are they trying to accomplish with this reorg? And then sit back and you've already got a collection of what skills you have. You understand what your strengths are, and then consider how can I apply my strengths to this bigger strategy? And there should be one. So I'd first say, get your hands on what is the business strategy? What are the priorities as a result of this reorg? And start to think about where you fit into that. And I have seen people come up with roles that they've moved into that weren't even created yet. And it was, I know I'm still going to be on this team. They said they weren't going to do, complete transitions for people out. They wanted to just restructure the work. And so you can actually be part of that if you're clear on what your skills are and how you can contribute to that next level for the team.
Yeah, from what I'm hearing you say, it really comes down to communication. So making sure doing that work of the clarity of yourself. So you mentioned like the one sentence for leadership of this is what I want. These are some of the goals, even if you don't know the exact end game in that sense or the exact title. If you have a general idea and able to communicate that, it sounds like that's the best way moving forward. And it kind of leads into the next question about that one sentence leadership identity you talked about. So without getting, because I know this can be really personalized, obviously, would you have any other, like maybe quick examples of like, or even showing like, okay, here would be a weaker example of a sentence, and this is what would make it stronger. So I don't know if you have any like that working with
Yeah.
clients off the top of your head you can give, just as a quick starting point for someone who's trying to figure out that first step.
Yeah, so when I work with my clients, one of the first exercises we do is crafting your personal brand statement. And so the strongest statements will always ensure that it has what your specific role is, what you specifically do for others, and the results that come from that. So I'm Brittany. I am a promotion strategy coach, and I help women to get out of their own way and identify the things holding them back from getting to the next level. It's very clear. What problem do you help solve? How do you do it? And you don't have to go into, oh, I have this framework and I have, I do webinars and I speak. No, they don't. Very simple. And then if they're intrigued and they're wanting more, then you can get into the details of what it is. But if you just have that very high level, my name is this, here is my job title, this is what I do, and here's why I do it. Here's the results that come.
Mhm. Yeah, I like that why piece because it shows your passion for it. And you were mentioning also, I think like by calling it like a playful framework,
Mm-hmm.
it kind of shows that it's like it's not just like a this is here's the assignments of what I'm responsible for. It's a this is why I like doing what I do, and the power behind that, which is awesome. So other questions that are coming in, love that people are putting things in the Q&A. Please continue to do so. So this one, there's a couple in here talking about relationships with managers and how to kind of best navigate different situations. So the first situation regarding your manager that I want to kind of hopefully get you to answer is how do you work around a manager who's aware of your potential and desire for a promotion, but they're not necessarily a strong enough leader or unable to actually help advocate for you? So not they may not have that level of that you're looking for as far as to get them in the room, that those kind of situations.
That is why it's so important to network and expand your visibility within the organization, because there are managers who aren't the best at that. And if you have one that's kind of a roadblock, if you're part of different ERGs, BRGs, organizations within the networks within the organization, that's going to help tremendously. And also relationships with clients, ensuring that they see the value you bring, they understand what you do. Those who are above your direct line manager, making sure that when you're in meetings with large town halls or skip level meetings, that you are visible and that you're asking questions and that you're sharing insight and creating more curiosity that others see. Because if you're only doing that with your manager, it's very limited. But when you get out into a public forum and you're able to demonstrate that in other ways, work on cross-functional projects or be a resource for others, that's the way that you can sort of get past the bottleneck that a lot of managers create, unfortunately. And they're not creating a bottleneck out of, anything ill-intentioned. It's just maybe their style is more passive and they're not as active. They're not as vocal. They're more introverted. There could be all the different reasons for it, but that's where you have to recognize what's within your control to do.
Mhm. Yeah, and the other situation that was brought up that's kind of similar but a little bit different is talking about because they were mentioning an issue more of like with their manager in that relationship, but talking this one is more of like that skip level. So
Mm-hmm.
someone who's a more senior or executive level that appears to maybe not like you as much.
Mm.
And your manager might be focused on trying to get them to like them instead of you. So like would you navigate something that's a little bit more complex than just dealing with your manager itself, but also looking at higher leadership and how do you change the narrative that they have in their head about who you are in that sense?
Yeah. So a skip level. So the question being, just to make sure, would be if the skip
Mhm.
level manager doesn't like me,
Yes.
how
And they
do
have like
I?
more control over like
Right.
promotion stuff.
So, okay, if a skip level manager has personal concerns, the best thing you can do is be friends and be influential to the peers of that skip level. So who are the peers of that skip level manager? And what work do you do that you can start to help influence or contribute to the work of their peers? Because if they're sitting in rooms with their peers and they're saying, oh, Amy helped me with XYZ, this was phenomenal, she's been partnering with my team, then they're going to start to look a little funny when they have a personal problem they haven't addressed. But if you've been able to provide influence to their peers and continue doing your incredible, amazing things that you do, just make sure the right people see it.
Yeah, and it goes back to, I feel like common themes that you're mentioning. So communication, building up your network. So again, looking at those like the peers of the skip level manager are really good, I think, strategies for sure to help you get to that next level. Other questions that are coming in from the chat that I want to make sure I bring up. What are some behaviors to communicate readiness to your leadership? So are there any like specific examples you can provide that you've noticed in your work with clients that have kind of signaled again to leadership, like I'm ready because of these behaviors that you're using?
Yeah. So some of the people I've worked with recently, I worked with a woman within, I would say, the first 3 months, she decided to have a conversation with her manager and had sort of her personal plan that she was working through. And a lot of it was just that executive presence people want to talk about. What does that mean? It's having those strategic level conversations and sort of looking at, here is what I'm noticing from the team. And then she became someone who took not just what she noticed, the issues and problems, but put together a few options to address those challenges where the team was slowing down, where things weren't so efficient, where decisions were hard to make. And she had a few different things that she put together and said, here was what I've noticed over the last few months. Had a meeting and shared that with her manager. And she actually was offered a role to lead a work stream that helped just fix all those inefficiencies. And then later she moved into a more senior level role with people working directly under her. So that's where having those types of conversations and just being the resource, at the end of the day, everyone is human. We can always do better. We all have beautiful brains that we use for so many different things. But when we get in our way to think like, just because they do it this way is how I have to do it, and here's our process. Well, how many processes have there been over years that got adjusted because they didn't work anymore? And now with, AI, everyone's changing the way they do things. So use that to your advantage as well. I mean, take some time to think back and look at the skills that you have, look at the challenges that you're noticing on the team, and get on your best friend Chat GPT or Claude and start talking to AI about, here's what I'm noticing, and here are some things that ideas I have. What else could I bring to my manager to help position myself? There's just so many great creative ideas that can come from that. But of course, you want to have a solid plan that works for you. It's just, how do you position it the right way?
Yeah, and I like that idea of like using AI to help level up your career in that sense of use that as a tool, like maybe not even for the day-to-day work, but also for starting to think about your clarity and okay, this is where you want to go. So start like brainstorming, and they get comfortable with this tool that can be a resource later on as well. Awesome. Yeah, and then I know we're getting pretty close at time, so we have a couple more minutes. So I just want to again thank everyone for being here. If you have any questions, we'll probably can take two max. And so just kind of going into the next one that I see here, the question is around what makes someone feel low risk for the next level in leadership discussions. So like thinking about, because we've talked a lot from that perspective of trying to move in, but from your conversations, because you mentioned in your intro, being in rooms where leaderships are just discussing someone and figuring out if they're promotion ready or not. So what are some things that you're thinking of that are like more low risk so they're willing to make that chance on them?
Yeah, some of the low risk are, again, it's just being seen as someone that is not just doing the work and not just dependable, but actually being somebody that's moving the needle and able to kind of speak back to why all of this work was done and what the impact was. And if you do that in a way, it's very low risk. Um, you're going to be discussed because, again, it comes back to that communication, the visibility. I'm sitting back doing all this work, but if you're not taking time to articulate the output and the outcome, and you're only focusing on the output, I put in 5 hours, I put in 50 hours, for what? What did the 50 hours do? And then why do I care? At the senior level, like, all the people are putting in 50 hours, but what you do is then share, here's how those 50 hours and long sleepless nights and weekends have done, and here's what the result was for the organization. That's the story that you can share. That's the narrative that you begin to craft. And so when they go into those meetings, they can say, you know what? Alexia did this, and I think we should consider, she seems ready because she's not just working the 50 hours and bragging about it. She's actually moving the needle, and here's what she did.
Yeah, so creating narrative that actually reflects your value, that your contribution for the company. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So, okay, I think we're pretty much at time. So I'm just double checking. And I believe we got through most of the questions. So again, thank you everyone for submitting your questions for this live Q&A conversation with Brittanni. And I just want to, again, thank you so much for being here with our audience today and taking the time to talk about how do you become promotion ready and what are things that you can do. So even if you're not in that room where the discussion is happening, you can still be thought about, or your name can be thrown in the hat for those opportunities. So again, thank you everyone for being here today. As always, Forte, we do a bunch of business essential webinars. We have a ton of different events as well. Please feel free to check out our website for more upcoming events, as well as programs that we have. And then I believe Brittanni, she had that QR code. So if you scanned it, feel free to get in contact with her as well if you need to have further conversation on figuring out your next steps for this promotion ready conversation. So with that, I want to wish everyone a great rest of the day. And thank you once again for attending our latest Business Essential webinar.